The federal government is very serious about regulating the civilian use of drones in this country. Now, Nick, they are going to put together a registry where every civilian, every owner of a drone has to go in, register, because we push the envelope in this unregulated portion of the drone wars, as if you will. We've seen there's many close calls of people that have been flying their drones over fires here in California, intervening and kind of preventing the firefighters from doing their job. We've seen them flying them over the White House, flying them over airports, putting in risk the life of the public. What do you think? Do you think it's the right thing to regulate?
I do. I honestly do, and I think it would be foolish not to ever implement any sort of rules with this kinds of things, because it is compromising people's safety. Now, while I am glad to see the government stepping in and doing something regarding people's safety, I also have a few questions for the government as well. How about a little bit transparency when it comes to their drones, right? They're little bigger drones, but the drones that they're using in other countries to kill people, a lot of the times, they say up to 90% of the time, inaccurately killing innocent civilians. But they feel that civilians like you and I, knowing these kinds of things and knowing every time a strike happens is apparently compromising our safety, and they don't want us to know those kinds of things. So, well, again, I'm getting a little off topic because we're talking about civilian drones, but at the same time, you know, transparency, I think, should go both ways.
I like that because, and we'll go back to the details of this new regulation, but I like that because it also highlights one of the reservations that many out there have with the government regulating the flight of drones, because he actually targets, in one end, public, civil, independent journalism. A lot of journalists are using these drones to fly over farms to see the real conditions of animals in these farms, secret facilities, secrets that the government might have. Journalists are trying to get to these places. They've been successful, and they break stories that are really important. At the same time, we also break other stories where we have drone operators trying to peek onto someone's private property just to get video of these girls. We did the story, Margaret broke that story here, where these guys saw this drone flying over his house. His daughters were taking a sunbath, and this guy just shot the drone down, and there was a big issue around it. But I think these examples exemplify what we're talking about, this unregulated kind of wild west period of the drone frenzy, because in the last 2 years, we are talking about almost 700,000 drones in the sky, civilian drones in the sky all over the country. And now they're trying to regulate those who fly anything above 400 feet and below 1,000 feet. I think it's needed. It's a necessary evil. Regulation, over-regulation from the government, but we have to understand that this specific regulation is going to be really hard to enforce, because most of these drones do not have transponders that send their information back to the controller. They only receive information. So unless we have a unique number in every drone that crashes that we can track their owner, what they really are trying to do is to deter and make these operators and rogue flyers more conscious and think twice before they actually fly over an airport or over the White House. But I think it's needed. It's a good step. Now, like you said, there's a lot of things that we need to be vigilant about once the government tries to regulate on civilian use.
And you referred to it as a necessary evil. Now, I wouldn't even call it that. It's a necessary common sense, right? Drones are being flown over stadiums where you have people watching. If one of those things goes out, has a short, and falls on someone, you could kill somebody. So it's very apparent that we need these kinds of laws in place.
I agree.
So I think it's obviously common sense, but like you said, it's impossible to regulate these kinds of things. You can't really track it down. So it's only a matter of time now when we can actually track it to the location where the actual remote is being used, and we can nab the person who's doing it or flying that drone unlawfully. Because as of now, great, it's registered, and then when it falls, after it falls, then they can find the number and then they can track them. But we need to know in real time where that person is, because they could potentially leave.
Part of this initiative is to develop software with tech companies that allows law enforcement to find the operator through the use of the radio signals, to kind of triangulate and say, oh, the operator is right here, we can go find him. Because so far, it's really hard for authorities. Once there's a drone that invades personal space or private property, yes, you get and recover the drone, but there's no way to link that drone back to an owner, even with a serial number when they got it. So it's something that is necessary. enthusiasts out there have been pushing the envelope. They've been putting firefighters in danger. They've been putting air pilots in danger. And the federal government now is making sure that we at least take steps to regulate and make the airspace safer for everyone. We want to know your opinion. Do you think over-regulation is what we're looking at, or this is something that is necessary because people is just abusing their freedom to fly a drone? Let us know in the comments below. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the LibTV too.